you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm Jimmy Murphy. He is Pierre McGuire. And we are going to continue our season team previews today, Pierre. We will look at the Calgary Flames and the Seattle Kraken. We'll actually kick things off with the Kraken in a bit, as we will be joined by our good friend, Rob Simpson, who covers the Kraken out in Seattle, and he will join us to discuss what to expect from that team coming up, and then we'll get into the Calgary Flames as well. But Pierre, first off, how are you today, my friend?
I'm very well. What a beautiful day in Boston. Magnificent, not a cloud in the sky. Went working out around Harvard today, and I saw a lot of Harvard hockey players walking around. I saw a lot of Harvard football players running around, and saw some Harvard rowers on the Charles River. So it got me motivated to take my workout to the next level.
Nice. Good stuff. Good stuff. And yeah, this weather's got to get you motivated too as well. Yeah. It can stay this way as long as it wants, as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to go for a nice walk on the beach, Pierre, after this. So we'll get that exercise in. But Pierre, before we get Simmer on, just quickly, your take on the Seattle Kraken, the current state of them. Where are they headed? Who is this team? What are they doing?
Well, they got a new coach, Dan Bylsma. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch. They brought in Chandler Stevenson in the offseason, a Stanley Cup winner, not just in Vegas, but in Washington. They're counting on Shane Wright to be a guy that, will fulfill the promise as a first-round pick. And obviously signing Brandon Montour was huge for them in the offseason as a defenseman that can bring a lot of, offense from the back end to go along with Vince Dunn. And Ryder Evans. So, I mean, they've got some interesting things there. I still think they're trying to find their way. Do I think they're a playoff team? They had 81 points last year, Jimmy. They had 81 points. 81 points not going to get them in, So they're going to have to find a way to get at least 25 to 26 more points if they're going to make it. They're going to have no choice. That's the only way they're going to make it.
Yeah, and of course, the same amount of points, ironically, as the other team we'll discuss. Both Calgary.
Let's just say they got to get. I'll tell you this. I'm going to say if they get 17 to 20 points, they'll make the playoffs. So they got to get probably 7 to 10 more wins somewhere there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm with you on that. I wonder, Pierre, and I know this is crazy. It's not like you want anyone to lose. You don't want to make the playoffs. So don't get me wrong when I say this. But we've seen a couple of times. With expansion teams, obviously Vegas was an anomaly and the biggest exception of all. But, when maybe an expansion team goes a little further than expected in their first season, or maybe they're better faster than people thought, and it kind of gives you a false illusion of where you are in terms of a team. And maybe I see that kind of like it happened a bit with Seattle, I felt like last year. I felt like there was this false sense of comfort. I don't know if comfort's a strong word, but a false sense of identity would be the word. And I wonder if that was a lesson learned over the offseason in terms of management reevaluating things.
This is their fourth year as an NHL franchise. So they missed the playoffs the first year. They made the playoffs the second year. They missed the playoffs the third year.
They upset Colorado the second year. Remember that too.
Yeah. And then here's the deal. Their American League team the last 2 years has gone to the Calder Cup final. Now, they lost both times to a really good organization in Hershey. Hershey's just amazing in the American Hockey League, and has been forever and ever and ever. And so Washington's scouting staff should take some credit on that. But Danny Bylsma coached that American League team, so he knows a lot of those kids. He knows all the kids that are coming up. He knows all the people in the organization. Jessica Campbell's one of his assistants. She's been down there. She's a first NHL female assistant. And Bobby Woods, who I've known a long time, he's a long-time NHL assistant coach. He goes way back with Bruce Boudreau, and every stop Bruce had, Bobby was along for the ride. He's very good working with defensemen. So and Dave Lowry's there. He's a holdover from the last staff. They got a lot going on. With Ronnie Francis and Jason Bottrell, you got really good brain power in the upper echelons in the managerial suite. But I think what you said is so spot on, Jimmy. The truth is that everybody expected them to come out of the gate going 98, and that's just not how it's going to work. And everybody thinks, we're going to be the next Vegas. That's not happening. That's not happening anymore because people learned a lesson. And this is not a knock on Vegas.
No.
But George McPhee, he played nasty. And I say that in a good way. As a GM, before Kelly McCrimmon went there as a GM, Kelly was there, but he wasn't the GM. Vegas played nasty. And there's nothing wrong with that. They didn't break the rules.
Mm-hmm.
They just basically went after people. And that's how they got all these extra players that were obviously established players. And, they went to the Stanley Cup final their first year of his existence.
I know.
It's amazing.
You're right. And people thought, oh, well, we can do that. Everyone can keep doing that. And it's not.
Everybody
it's not how it's
learned
gonna
a
work.
lesson. They watched how everybody – and I'm not trying to be I told you so, but I was doing pretty significant TV work at the time and a lot of significant radio work at the time. And podcasts really didn't exist then. And I would just tell you right now, I remember saying, I don't know why all these GMs are capitulating to George. And he's a really good friend of mine. Like George I really respect the heck out of George and would do anything to help George. But I was like, why are they all rolling over for him? Don't forget it.
Yeah.
We'll lose one player. We don't need to lose 4 items. We're going to only lose 1 player.
Yep.
All these guys were protecting guys they should never. And it was crazy.
It really was.
It would behoove the fans that don't really remember what I'm talking about right now.
Yep.
To go look at what Vegas pulled out of the expansion draft. It's
compared to other ones.
When you think about it, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
Marc-Andre Fleury ended up being the picture of their franchise, the face of their franchise. You can't make that stuff up. They had just won Stanley Cups in Pittsburgh, and I know everybody said, Matt Murray. I was there doing the games. Matt Murray was good, but there were a lot of times Marc-Andre Fleury had to go in and bail him out.
Yeah.
Fleury still had major game.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to say Pittsburgh probably should have done something else, but there were other players that could have lost. Yeah.
It's unreal. Pierre, I wonder too, we've been talking, not to sidetrack a bit here, but we got a few extra minutes before we bring Simmer on. You talk about this and it gets me thinking about the conversation we had last week where, we were both in agreement that there's going to be expansion teams before the next CBA, which would be in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So what are those expansion drafts going to look like? The more further down the line we are from Vegas, it's going to be really hard for those teams to come in and have an impact right away unless they do some really amazing scouting off the bat.
Well, that's why I'm shocked. Just take it for what it's worth. And maybe they are, but I haven't heard of it. More of these teams aren't actually creating a firewall right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 new teams coming. Probably each team's going to lose 2 players.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'd have a firewall set up. There are ways of doing it. I don't want to get too convoluted in a podcast environment. I don't want to put people to sleep, but there are ways to do it. And I personally don't think I've witnessed anybody starting to do that yet.
Yeah.
Now maybe they are, and they're just not
keeping it quiet. Yeah.
I don't think they are.
It will be interesting to see. And want to remind our readers, our listeners and viewers, definitely get your questions ready for later on. We will answer them. Hopefully we got some Kraken and Flames fans tuning in. And quickly, before we get to the Flames, just a quick glimpse of your thoughts on them, Pierre.
They're still rebuilding. It's a tough situation for Craig Conroy. I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. I've known Craig since he was a kid playing at the Northwood School. His mother used to work for a real good friend of you and I, Billy O'Flaherty, who's been on the show up at Clarkson. Right. And that's how Craig ended up there. And, he had a really distinguished NHL playing career. Talking about Craig Conroy, he really did. And the relationship, obviously, between him and Jerome McGinley was phenomenal. Everybody remembers that 2004 Calgary run to the Stanley Cup final where they lost to Tampa, but it was just an amazing final. I had the opportunity to be around that entire final, and it was tremendous. And Craig was a big part of that, and so was Daryl Sutter, with Calgary. There were so many good storylines there. But here's what I would say. They're a team that This is going to break your heart because I was doing the math today. Since 2010, do you know how many times they've missed the playoffs? 10. They've won 3 rounds since 2010.
And 2 were in the same season, right? No, they're both separate. Yeah, they're all separate.
They never got past the second round.
Wow.
In 14 years, they've won 3 rounds and they've missed the playoffs 10 times. When I was doing that today, like that broke my heart.
Yeah, for a hockey market who's now building an arena.
Those fans are awesome. Number one, it's an amazing town. It's not a town; it's an amazing city. Number two, and I'm telling you right now, like those people love hockey. Calgarians love hockey, and you see how exciting it was in Edmonton, right? When they went to the final. Well, Calgary would be that plus. It really would, just because their population's bigger.
Yep.
It's just Southern Alberta is an amazing place. It's really a cool spot. So many good memories of coaching games there, broadcasting games there, scouting games there. I shared it with you and our viewers probably 2 weeks ago. I remember going in there when I was working in Ottawa. Without a doubt, the best line in the NHL. It's not even close that year. It was Elias Lindholm, the late Johnny Gaudreau, who had 115 points that year, and Matthew Tkachuk. And in the same offseason, they traded Matthew Tkachuk to Florida. That's coming off that year. Matthew Tkachuk goes to Florida, and Johnny Gaudreau, he goes to Columbus.
It's tough to watch, Pierre. I mean, because I think back, remember that 2004 run to the final, to Game 7. You were there.
So let me bring these names up, and then you tell me if I'm overreacting, because I really care about the market.
Yep.
Andrew Mangiapane's gone. Noah Hanifin.
That one made no sense to me. It's like they didn't even make an effort to keep him, which I was bad. I think he's an underrated player.
Noah Hanifin's gone. Nikita Zadorov's gone. Christopher Tanev is gone. Elias Lindholm is gone. Jacob Markstrom is gone. That's just from this year.
Yeah.
That's just in 2024.
Exactly. And then I know he was, he's towards the end of his career, and it wasn't the biggest loss, but it's a dressing room loss. They lost their captain, Giordano, a couple of years before that.
Well, but that was okay. So that was expansion.
Yeah.
Okay, that was Seattle coming in.
I'm just talking about the dynamics of it changing.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
Yeah.
But Mark went in expansion because they just contractually So I get it.
We'll give him that one.
That one I get that one. But I just gave you a laundry list of really good players.
Yep.
So as much as, and you and I both like Nazem Kadri a lot. We do. I'll just say it for you because we've talked about it. He's a good player. But Naz isn't a number one center.
No.
He's not.
I want to get into him later, but now that you brought him up, I don't think he's a Calgary Flame by the end of this season, Pierre.
If I were a team that had a legitimate chance to win in the playoffs,
and you've got the space,
I needed sandpaper, and I had cap room, and I did a lot. I'm fortunate because I've known Naz a long time, and I really respect him and like him a lot as a person and as a player. I've never had a bad meeting with that kid. I'll never forget meeting with him after Canada lost in the World Junior in a hallway. He was crying. He was emotional. He was I really respect him a ton. And I would tell you this. If I were a team that had a legitimate chance to compete for the cup and I thought there was a hole in my roster in that type of position, he'd be one of the first guys I'd go get.
I'm just looking at some of the teams that are in position that have space. Yeah, a lot of them would have to do some maneuvering. One team, well, no, that will change if and when they sign.
You got to wait till the trade deadline.
Yeah. He's not new now, but yeah, I'm with you. I think there could be some traction to that.
I'm not saying Naz is going anywhere.
We're not.
You brought that up, but I'm going to say this. And I'm playing off your point, if Naz was available and I was a team that thought I had to have that type of player, that type of player are hard to find. He'd be one of the first guys.
Well, I look at it from the team and the player's standpoint, Pierre, and I'm going to look at it from his point of view right now. and guess that when he signed, he didn't envision a rebuild.
Do you remember when we started our show last year?
Yes.
And I was really surprised. So Zadorov went first.
Yep.
So I was surprised that they
To
traded
Vancouver
in the division. I remember saying that too. And then Elias Lindholm went in the division, and they couldn't say that Calgary definitely or Vancouver wasn't going to sign. They didn't know that.
No.
There's no way they could have known that.
No.
So they traded 2 guys within the division, and then they traded Noah Hannafin to Vegas.
Yeah.
Again, that's in the division. And then they traded Christopher Tanev to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's obviously moved on to Toronto, and to his credit, Brad Treliving's the guy that brought him from Vancouver to Calgary. So good for him for recognizing that.
Yep.
But if you follow what I'm saying, Jimmy, it's
an exodus. It's been a mass exodus.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, we'll get into the Flames a bit later on. Let's bring on our good friend Rob Simpson. Join us here on the Eye Test. Nice lid, Rod. You out with Crocodile Dundee earlier? What?
I did. I just got off a boat. Just trying to stay out of the sun and the wind.
There you go.
How are you, gentlemen?
We are wonderful, and you?
I'm all right. I'm hanging in there. Pierre, how you doing? Are you in Tremblant or what?
No, I'm in Boston right now. Heading to Tremblant on Thursday.
Okay, cool.
There we
Very
go.
nice.
On Thursday.
There we go, my friend.
You want to talk a little Kraken?
Yeah, how's the summer been, Rob, before we get into that?
It's been great. I've had a leisurely summer. Yeah, some ups and downs, but all good. As you know, I'm always happy. I like to bring a smile to everybody's face if possible. So, having a good time on the micro and macro scale, if you will.
I got to say, I was Pierre. I don't know if you noticed it, but our good friend, our mutual friend, Kevin Paul DuPont, was giving Rob a little plug to get the play-by-play for the Bruins 2 weeks ago in his Sunday column. We're told, now Rob and I are trying to figure this out. I still haven't been able to discover, but we're told somebody has been hired, but we'll see who it is. But
I don't know if that's true, but
I think you would have been good for it, Simmer, and that was a nice little compliment by Dukes, right?
Yeah, it would have been. Well, I know I'd be great for it, but we'll see. I don't know if that's already happened, but que sera. We'll see.
All right. Well, Rob, let's get into the Seattle Kraken. And as I was stating to you off the phone earlier today, as well as Pierre, this is a team that I, from afar, sense has maybe they don't now, maybe they didn't at all. But I sense sort of a false impression of who and what they were after that upset of Colorado in the playoffs. And now that's why we are where we are.
Well, part of that, there's a lot of things fell into place. So particularly an incredible shooting percentage at 5-on-5, which was the best in the NHL. A ridiculously effective fourth line, which, as we know, can be very, very helpful. And, Daniel Sprong and Morgan Geekie and our pal Ryan Donato, those guys lit it up. Like, it was a ridiculous production from the bottom six. You had Matty Beniers as Rookie of the Year. You got good goaltending. Martin Jones stepped in when Groovy went down for his annual injury. So, I mean, just a lot of things worked out well for them that season. Healthy as hell. Like, I think their entire decor, which was balanced 3 lefty, 3 righty, may have missed a grand total of somewhere between 10 and 13 games total the entire season. That might not even reach that number. So they had health, they had production, they had ridiculous stats. And then basically Ron Francis, all 3 of those guys skated, and he didn't necessarily replace them. Kyler Yamamoto, Pierre Edward Bellemare, they're trying to improve their face-off percentage. How'd that go? So they dropped off in the bottom 6 all the way across the board. Beniers had a sophomore slump. And if you want to really just jump to the chase here, they did add Chandler Stevenson. I've always liked his skill and his tenacity. Brandon Montour, these guys are experienced, they're winners. But this is still a team that is on the bubble at best. And part of that is goaltending consistency. I mean, Joey Decord was a breath of fresh air last year when Grubauer went out. So they're in good shape there. But you just know, Philip Grubauer, if you're making close to $6 million a year and long term, and you're playing 39 and then 36 games, that's not going to get it done. Having to rely on backups, and just look around the division.
Yeah,
it's a tough neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Simmer. Last year, 98 points made it in. 98 points made it in the West. They had 81. They had the same number as Calgary. Can they get 7 to 10 more wins with the roster they have this year?
I doubt it. And the part of that is because of the head-to-head in the West and because of the competition.
It's a tough neighborhood. And I'm telling you right now, I'm convinced that Anaheim's going to be a whack better. They're going to be a ton better. Utah, who used to be Arizona, they're going to be a ton better. And they're going to be playing in front of a crazed house of fans. So it's not going to be like going into a small arena with no noise. And I think San Jose is going to have more wins. I do. And Vegas is going to be way more consistent. I believe Vegas will be way more. So I don't know how easy it's going to be. I don't know how easy it's going to be for Seattle.
Well, obviously playoffs is the benchmark, right? Whether you can get in or not. And just look at the locks. Unless something bizarre happens, you've got Edmonton in there. You've got Vegas in there. You've got the Vancouver Canucks, who are coming off 109-point season, and and then, as you mentioned, all the other teams in the Pacific Division. So that sort of right out of the blocks, given the fact that Seattle Kraken have not added heaps of talent, they've replaced some bodies. By the way, they signed Adam Larson, right shot, stalwart defenseman, to a 4-year deal today. They still have good balance, right, left, along the blue line. So there should be strong back there below their own blue line. But I just don't know if it's enough to get over the hump when you consider those 3 teams in the division. And then if it becomes a wild card race, you've already mentioned the teams in the Pacific, the Central Division. I mean, Nashville, hello, they'll probably finish above that wild card chase this year if things go the way they expect. But I think, wild card is their best crack. And that's what they're going to have to aim for. I'm really looking forward to having my LA Kings guest on here in a few days on a little Simmer's morning skate thing that I crank up, because they were just a weird mystery to me.
That's it. I don't know. We're going to break them down soon, Pierre. And I don't know. I'm with Simmer here. I don't know how to read that team. There's a lot of potential, but there's a lot of what is going on here?
Part of it might just be the Cali West Coast thing. They have more talent than people realize that watch a lot of hockey, because they just don't. People just don't see him enough. Anze Kopitar is like fountain of youth. I can
tell you about him.
And they've got goaltending.
Same draft as Sidney Crosby, 2005.
Yep. And Drew Doughty still got game. So
we'll get into them later.
You brought up
because you brought up Drew Doughty. Think about that draft. You couldn't have gone wrong. Tampa and LA. Tampa had the first pick. They took Stamkos. LA had the second pick. They take Doughty. It's one of the only drafts you can say they could have exchanged. They were both going to win the cup. Yeah. They both got winning players. It's unbelievable. And I remember they were both part of a World Junior team in 2008 in Česká Budějovice in the Czech Republic, and also Pilsen. They were so good. You knew those guys were rock star good. You just knew.
It's great when you see that at that. Yeah. I'm with you. You brought up that defense, Simmer. I agree with you. I like it. It's solid, but I look at the age right now, buddy. I mean, you've got Riker Evans, who's 22. All right, so he's still in the young category. Mahor's in at 26, and then you got Vince Dunn, 27, and then the final 3 guys, all over 30. Brandon Montour's 30. Alexiak is 31. Larson's 31.
Right.
What do they have coming up the ranks right now? Anything to look forward to in terms of youth?
Well, one thing to keep in mind there is they actually got younger, because
really, wow,
yeah, because Justin Schultz, Brian Dumoulin,
yep,
these are 2 guys that were mainstays last year. So they actually kind of slid down on that.
So
graph,
they were even older,
just a wee bit. So I mean, in terms of the prospects that make you maybe go wow, it's more up front.
Yeah.
They love Ryan Winterton. Logan Morrison got some games in the NHL this year. Yanni Nyman, the Finn winger, has got a howitzer. He's another guy they're very excited about. Riker Evans is Very, very solid player.
He's a really good player.
Yeah.
You know what I'm interested to watch, Rob? I'm interested to see if Ben Myers can really get it going up there. Because, you know, I went and scouted him at the University of Minnesota. We were in there right to the end in Ottawa when I was in Ottawa. You know, obviously went to Colorado. I don't know if that was a great fit because they just had such an overwhelming roster. He's a talented kid. Like he's not a kid anymore. He's a little bit older, but he can play. And they signed him on a 1-year deal. I don't know if he'll get a chance to play in the NHL or not, but that's one player. When I was preparing for this, I was like, that was a pretty good acquisition because he got a chance. Doesn't mean he can do it, but he's got a chance. He can fight for it.
Yeah, he's 25 years old and another centerman. And by the way, speaking of the centers, you know, Matty Beniers tried. Pat Brisson, I wrote a piece on it. You know, worked his magic again. He gets Beniers a 7-year deal. He's not
$1 million.
He's not a number one. So you got two lefties as 1A, 1B, right? With him and Stevenson. And then Gord's a lefty, so you got 3 lefties. If Shane Wright actually makes it, and that's been a question and some consternation of where is he at? Where's he going to be? Will he eventually get there? Right now, they're looking at a very young fourth line. So they went from these 3 guys that were pending free agents that cashed in after having a phenomenal year. The 3 guys I mentioned from 2 years ago drop off substantially last year. And now this year, they're going to try to get it done with a young unit on 4. They only have 21 guys signed right now. They have 12 forwards, 7D, and a couple of goalies. And it's going to be Cartier and Wright and probably Brandon Tanev, the Maniac, as their fourth liners. So the question would be strength up the middle. I mean, I mentioned being a fan of Stevenson.
For so many
Beniers needs to bounce back. So that is huge, is the strength up the middle up front.
Yep.
That's what we talked about today, huh, Jimmy, before we came on the air. Matty Beniers has to bounce back from a tough second season. He has to. I mean, really important.
And I think he will.
Oh, I do. I've known him long. How about any sightings on Jager Fergus? Fergus, I should say.
The man with the magical mustache. He is listed as another one of their top 3 or 4 prospects up front. And I don't know what his situation is at the moment, but we'll find out. He's fun to watch. He's a talented kid. I've seen him in a couple camps.
Really talented. There's one other kid we haven't brought up yet. He's not going to play this year. He's going to play for Teddy Donato at Harvard, but it's Ben McDonald. He's a 3rd-round pick, and I've worked with him a lot over the last 6 years. He had an unbelievable summer. I'm expecting, and I'll tell you this, Simmer, right now, if he doesn't get 20 goals this year, I'll be really disappointed. It's either because Harvard's had a bad year or he got hurt.
Yeah.
Because that kid should be a 20-goal guy. And if he is, I got to think they're going to seriously think about taking him out of school.
Hey, Pierre, Berkeley Catton, by the way, did you have any, I mean, super skilled.
Well, I've never worked with him, but I know who he is.
No, right.
Yeah.
Spokane Chiefs.
Yep, very tough.
Skill guy, has to round out his game, all that good stuff. But I thought that was a good pick.
Yeah, well, I do too.
I liked it. Yeah, well, for sure. Simmer, talk to us just about the team in the city in terms of the sports landscape now and where they stand, what they might need to do to kind of, well, obviously win, but are they out there enough? Have they become part of the fabric of the sports culture there yet?
Not entirely.
Okay.
I'll bring up 2 points here. I was traveling around North America doing a show for the Toronto Maple Leafs. In 2004, I came here and made a stop. Mm-hmm. And my impression was we did a thing on the T-Birds. We did some crazy stuff like we always did. And we did something on Everett when Dougie Sotart was starting that up and they were building their rink in the WHL. I didn't get the impression that this was an NHL market. But that's, 20 years ago. They've done a phenomenal job with the rink. They've done a phenomenal job with the marketing. But in this town right now, it's all Seahawks. Mm-hmm. The Mariners have had a disappointing season because they have the best pitching staff in baseball, but they can't score runs, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody's focused on that. UW football, right? There's talk the Sonics, some form of the Sonics are going to come back. That's going to eat into that hockey. And I'm still not entirely convinced. And here's another little media example. There is there's the flagship station on radio. It's okay. The leading podcaster is actually a gentleman, Jimmy, Mike Salk.
Oh yeah,
Who was
yep.
in
The old
Boston.
ESPN Boston, yeah.
And he does a show with the former quarterback. I think it's Brock Heward. That's the top deal, right?
Okay.
They never talk Kraken. And in fact, Mike, when he found out I was here, we got a hold of each other. He goes, Simmer, I had no idea you're here. You're my Kraken guy. I'm going to have you on whenever I have something break or something happens. I have you on. And I said, great.
Yeah.
So we've stayed in touch. I've probably been on the show 3-4 times, but that's it. And that's basically not because of me, or whatever. It's because that's all they want. That's the limit to how many times they want to. So when they got rid of Hackstall, that was an occasion, right? And there's pre-playoffs the one year. That was an occasion. But otherwise, they're not talking about the Kraken. Zero. Zilcho. This team needs to win this year, and it's going to be a tough go.
I agree. I think, again, can they get 7 to 9 more wins? That's got to be.
They can, but will they?
They got to get 7 to 9 more, and if they don't, they're not making it. No. Here's a question for you, Rob. It's a TV question just to play off of what you were talking about. How much are people talking about not having cable TV to watch their games now, because all the games are going to be on the local NBC affiliate because their cable provider is done?
Yeah. I think it would probably benefit them. I mean, this is just off the cuff because, I mean, it's King TV, which is a traditional stalwart in the market. And that weird thing, Paul Sylvie, who's their sports director, he and I grew up in the same town, little town in Michigan. He went to the rival high school, and we graduated the same year.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty wild. But, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I think it's better. The whole Root Sports thing was the costs involved and and they were blacked out a lot of times, and they didn't show this and that, and it was just it seemed like a mess. And
that's good to know.
I think if you're just over the air and available, it's not a full schedule to my recollection. I haven't looked at this in a while, but just the fact that they'll be on a mainstream Seattle kind of a stalwart traditional spot, I guess, on your dial, probably helps out. And then I don't know if there's going to be pay-per-view in some situations. I can't remember how it's all working out, but I think it's a good deal.
One more. What about the new coaching staff?
Well, you know Danny Boy, Disco Dan, as well as I do, and a nice chat with him when he got hired, talking about I was on the ice when he hoisted the cup in 2008. No, 2009. 2009. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. Red Wings in 8.
And Joe Louis.
Yeah, I know. It was, and don't tell anybody.
The reverse.
Wings fan. I was working for the league at the time in New York, and I was going back and forth between the cities with the media charter. And I was like, the Wings had won the previous year.
Right.
And then I had to walk out on the ice, standing behind Fleury when he made the save along the glass, waiting for the gates to open to go out. And I was like, oh, God, I got to interview all the Penguins. But it was fine. It was cool. And, obviously, because Sid, we get to watch him hoist the cup out there. But, yeah, it was tough. But anyway, surely I digress. And I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Where was I going? Where did we start with that last question?
Bosma.
Oh, yeah.
We're kind of the same thing.
Sorry. I talked to him that day, and I talked to him this time. He didn't have success in Buffalo when he bounced over there. But then again, who has? Yeah. In fact, I was going to look up, and I forgot before Rick jumped on here. I was going to see how many head coaches the Buffalo Sabres have gone. Phil Housley's in there that they've gone through in the last
since the last time they made the playoffs.
Ralph Kruger.
Stan was there.
Donnie Granato.
So I don't know if that's a fair barometer for what type of success this coaching staff may. I mean, obviously it's part of his history, but I'm not sure if that is a fair barometer in terms of looking ahead or looking at his past and comparing things. He jumped in. He jumped in mid-season and won that cup.
Yeah, it was in January. Michel Therrien. Actually, Michel Marion got let go, and they brought in Danny.
Right. So pretty
So when
fortuitous.
his first full season then that's when they got upset by the Canadians in the playoffs, right?
I
2010?
believe so.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
the
I
year.
remember
That was the year Slovakian boy stood on his head and beat the Caps.
Yep. Halak.
Yes, Yaroslav Halak.
Yeah.
Who had a
I love Yarrow.
who had a backup named Carey Price.
That's right.
Yeah, they both saw time.
Yep.
In that postseason, I do believe, and then Halak stole it with that performance. It was fun talking to him 2 years ago. I was covering the Canucks full time, and it was at pretty much every game and most practices.
But both you guys want to ask you, based on what we know of Bilesman's coaching style, of his systems, does he fit in with the way this roster is getting constructed?
That's more of a Pierre question to me. I have to sit down and I have to watch some hockey before
You might not have an answer for that. Maybe that's to be determined.
I listened to everything Rob said because I always respect the guy that's boots on the ground in the marketplace.
Right.
So he made a point about the center ice position. I think it's a valid point.
I think that's the best. Yes.
So if you do the center ice position, is Matty Beniers a 1? No, but he can be a 1B. Is Chandler Stevenson a 1? No, he's not, but he can be a 1B. He's already won 2 cups and he's proven he can do it. Is Yanni Gourde a 1, 2, 3? No, but he's a 3 and he's won a cup. Yeah. So there's another one. But the question's going to be, is Shane Wright going to be good enough to be an energizer kind of a player to prove a lot of the doubters wrong? And then I'm only bringing that up because if you look at the centermen that were in Pittsburgh when Danny won, Sidney Crosby, Geno Malkin, Matt Cullen going to the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. Okay? I don't even want to go to the depth guys. Those are the 3.
Right.
Okay?
Hello.
None of them are good enough.
Yeah.
Compared to Pittsburgh had.
No. He walked into he was handed a large present.
That's what I'm saying. So everybody says you got to have D. You got to have elite centermen.
Yeah. You do.
You do. You can say whatever else you want.
Every cup champ is built up the middle. That's it.
Look, we went to the general manager in Seattle was a really important player for us in 91 and 92.
What position did he play?
Trust me, he's really good. But here, I'll just tell you 1, 2, 3, okay? Mario Lemieux was 1. Ronnie Francis was 2. Brian Trottier was 3. Randy Gillen was 4. And you know what? It just shows you how important that 4th guy is. Yeah. Randy Gillen, and you can go look it up, in a game, if I want to say a game 3 or a game 4 against Boston in 91, won 15 straight faceoffs. 15-0.
Wow.
15-0. So that guy had value on our team. Trottier is a Hall of Famer and an unbelievable leader. Francis, Hall of Famer, really good leader. Lemieux, arguably the best player, the 2nd or 3rd best player in the history of the sport. That was our center ice position.
Yeah. Right. So there you go.
Well, I brought up that young line of potential young line on the 4th line. If it's Cartier, who's kind of a digger, and then and then the kid right in the middle, whether or not he proves himself. That's really one of the big question marks because the 4th line has been pivotal for this team.
Yep.
Yeah, because they had made the playoffs with a successful 4th line 2 years ago, crapped out last year, and now will he finally be ready to go? And that's been a topic of discussion for a long time now.
We shall see.
Jimmy, that's a good point by Rob. I'm just telling you because
that's why we have him on.
Beniers can play, Stevenson can play, Gourde can play, but if you're short at the middle part and you get some guys hurt, watch how fast it goes like this.
Yeah.
Hey,
by the way,
his favorite team, Detroit Red Wings last year, they lost their number 1 center, Dylan Larkin, for 2.5 weeks.
And look what happened.
They missed the playoffs.
Right off a cliff. Right off the cliff.
They're in the
Pierre
playoffs.
called it. I remember it.
He's a Hart candidate.
Oh yeah.
If you were to include non-playoff teams, I mean, Dylan, what he means to that
team. Healthy, he would have been.
Totally agree. Totally agree with you.
But Yeah, I'm questioning Beniers. I brought up Pat Brisson early in this conversation to get that deal because this is not a guarantee. The kid has got a great attitude. He's a hard worker. He needs to bulk up. He needs to add strength and size, and hopefully that process is happening. But that's a damn good deal for some. You really don't know where the ceiling is. For a guy, you don't know where the ceiling is.
The one thing I'll say about Matty, I watched him from 2010 to about almost every weekend to about 2016. So long sample size. He's character personified.
Yeah.
He comes from an amazing family, and he took the right steps. He did. He didn't cheat the system. He didn't try to leapfrog everybody. He played the system out the right way. I think he'll be a really good player. Do I think he's going to be an elite number one center? I do not. I think he can be a really, really good Stanley Cup winning number 2 center. I do.
Right.
I do.
Right.
That's what I think he can be.
We shall see. All right, my friends. Simmer, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it last minute, and we'll be in touch. Don't you worry.
Lads, always a pleasure.
Always.
Later,
Always.
Rob.
Listen, Rob Simpson joined us here to talk some Seattle Kraken on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Oh, we got Rob, we got me, and now we got Pierre. There we go. And yeah, a lot of great points, and I think he nailed it, Pierre. It's what will they be like up the middle? That's the biggest thing right there.
It is. I think Montour will help them with points, so that's a positive for them. I think Chandler will help them with points. You know, Chandler Stevens, it can be a 50 to 65 point player. So let's just say 60 plus, 60 to 65. Mm-hmm. That helps a lot. That takes a lot of the rest off of Beniers and Yanni Gourde. So my question is, again, can they get 7 to 9 more wins? Because that's what they have to do.
And like you said, the neighborhood they're in, it's not going to be easy.
It's a hard, but
it's going to be some slugfest.
We will say this in advance, you and I both, because we talk a lot off the air. Anaheim, do not sleep on Anaheim.
Yep.
Don't sleep on Utah. Don't. Mm-hmm. Those teams are good. Mm-hmm. And Utah got a whack better, and Anaheim got a whack better. San Jose is going to be better, Jimmy.
Yeah.
They're going to be better. Now, is San Jose going to be 15 games better, 30 points? No.
There'll be some nights where they maybe take a point they didn't get last year.
They're going to somebody's going to go to sleep, and Will Smith's going to have a big night.
Yeah. Or middle of January, you got an East Coast team out there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Girls going to say, boys, let's go. We win tonight. It's a green light night. We can go out and have fun after the game. Those veteran guys, you know, they know what they're doing. So they'll be better. They'll be better.
We'll see what happens.
It's just going to be tough. I don't know if they're 7 to 9 wins better. I just don't know.
Well, we already dissected the Flames pretty well, Pierre, but quickly, do you see them making the playoffs? Because I don't. I see them being a lottery pick.
No.
I think that's what they need right now.
They had the same amount of points as Seattle. They had 81 points last year. Same amount. Exactly.
And I would say Seattle's a better team.
They are. And that's, look at most of their season, they had Mangiapane. They had Noah Hannafin. They had Zadorov for a little while. They had Tanev.
Markstrom. Don't forget that run Markstrom went on, Pierre, from like November to January. Remember?
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah. So I don't think they'll be as good. Now, the one thing they did today that I liked is they signed Tyson Barrie to a PTO. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. And I don't know if this has been talked about, Jimmy. You do all that surfing, so you know better than me. Ryan Huska was a coach of the Kelowna Rockets.
Has not.
When Tyson Barrie was playing there.
Okay.
He knows
there you go.
Everything about Tyson Barrie. Everything. And I told you off the air when I was just finished my workout today, I said, that's one where I think he could actually help them.
Yeah. And
I think that was a smart PTO. I give them credit.
I like that.
That's a good PTO because I think Tyson can help them. I do.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you. So we'll see what happens. Great catch by you. All right. Before we open it up to our Q&A, let's talk to you about Manta Sleep because, man, it helps me a lot. Their blackout masks. Literally, it could be 3 in the afternoon. The sun could be shining bright. You throw that mask on, you'll have no idea. You'll think it's in the middle of the night. So they are the only mask designed and optimized for deepest possible sleep in any environment. 100% blackout for deeper sleep. Infinitely adjustable for personalized fit. an absolute comfort. Visit mantasleep.ca, and when you go there, you got to use the code SICKET. That's SICKET. Again, SICKET for 10% off. All right, what do we got in the Q&A here? Ron LaRoque. What's up, Ron? Hello, guys. Pierre, what do you think of Mike Gartner? That's okay. I forgot to ask you about this, Pierre. Thanks for bringing that up, Ron. Replacing Laney McDonald on the Hall of Fame board. Any choice is probably a good choice.
Mike's been on the committee for a while, and Mike replaced John Davidson when John moved on. So that's kind of the natural progression. Mike, I've worked with Mike now for the last 6 years, I think, or maybe 6 or 7, I forget. He's outstanding. He's great. He's a voice of reason. He asks really probing, hard, good questions. Lanny will be missed. Lanny is amazing behind closed doors. He makes everybody feel important. He really values everybody's information and presentation. He's a giant in that room. He really is. Doesn't get nearly enough credit. So Lanny will be missed, but a really appropriate selection and Mike, real appropriate.
Yeah, yep, for sure. I agree. All right, next question. Marvin Matthews, regarding the Flames, what are the ceilings for Pelletier and Coronado?
Well, Peltier's a kid that's got huge offense. No, that's okay. He's got huge offensive capabilities, and I hope, he's healthy and can play at the highest level that they expect him to. I know Coronado fantastically well. Saw him play at the Salisbury School. Watched him play at Harvard for the 2 years he was there. Watched him play in the World Junior. I think he'll be an NHL player. I think he has huge upside. He can play center or wing. I think he's a better winger than a centerman. Mm-hmm. But he's a tremendous character kid, and I think he will thrive in Calgary. So both those guys, I think, have big offensive upsides.
All right, next question. Ian Lewis, with the Habs top 6 shaping up, can you see Dvorak and Anderson having bounce-back seasons due to the consistency of regular line mates and Devo not jumping over the boards to take faceoffs?
Well, I think Anderson's going to have a big bounce back.
I do too.
As far as Dvorak goes, I think what you see is what you get. He's always been that way. That's not a knock on him. He got paid too much money in Arizona.
He got hyped up too early.
It's not his fault.
Yeah.
Don't blame a player because he got paid money. I was happy for the kid. Good for him. Rick Tockett's a real good friend of mine. He coached him in Arizona. Thinks the world of the kid. Mm-hmm. But he got paid too much money. So the offensive numbers will never be high enough for what people expect. Is he a good number 3? Yeah, he's a good, solid number 3 guy. But he's not a 1 or a 2. And every team needs to have a real good 3. And I think he's an adequate 3. I don't think he's an elite 3.
All right, next question. John Smith. Pierre, are there any new equipment innovations you've come across while in your camps? I've been blown away by how light the goalie equipment has become. Best to you, Jimmy, and the team. Thanks, John.
I can't believe some of the new sticks.
Are they getting even lighter?
Yeah, they're getting lighter, but they're getting sturdier, especially for guys that have to take a lot of face-offs. Mm-hmm. It's kind of an interesting thing. And the kick plate for a lot of these sticks are different too. The kick point, I guess they call it, is really, if you like to hold your hands a certain way, mm-hmm. So it's really, I find the stick stuff is really interesting. But I agree with John. I just happened to pick up some goalie pads after one of our skates, and I can't believe how light they are.
It's crazy, huh?
I cannot believe how light they are. I'll never forget one of the best Christmas presents my brother Ryan, who was a very good goalie, got were deer-filled pads. Okay, custom made in the province of Quebec. That was his Christmas present. And I don't even know how much it cost my parents, but it was a substantial. That was his only. Most of us got like 5 or 6 gifts. He got one, and it was. They were great. But as soon as we got them, we went down to the lake and we backed in the lake, shooting pucks at them. But those were heavy. Oh my gosh! And at the end of the game, you picked them up. It might have been 25 pounds. They're just so heavy.
It is amazing how light it is now. The technology.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. All right, next question. Habinations. McKenzie still the one in San Jose?
Who's
McKenzie?
Oh, is he talking about Mackenzie Blackwood?
Oh, Mackenzie Blackwood. Yeah. Yep.
You might be talking about Mackenzie Blackwood. No, yep. I think they made a little acquisition from Nashville, Ashkarov. Yep. So I think that he and McKenzie will battle it out for number 1.
Well, and then they also have what's his name there? Vitek.
Vanacek.
Vanacek. Yeah, I think it's McKenzie and Vanacek will be battling for the backup eventually.
Yeah, they didn't go out and get Ashkarov to go to play.
That was a great pickup. Really good pickup.
We'll see how it plays out.
Yep. All right, next question. Enter tap. Any rule changes this year? Ooh, off the top of my head, there was 2.
There was, I think, subtle, but nothing
Yeah.
that I'm aware of.
Let me get back to you on that tomorrow. I'll look it up after.
Look that up for you. We'll definitely.
I apologize. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, how do you think Zary will do in I like that kid. Zary will do in Calgary now that they are rebuilding. I used to work with Zary's dad, Scott. Great family.
So the other Zary, his cousin, plays at LIU for Brett Riley.
Oh, wow.
And I talked
Small
to him.
world.
I talked to the young man a couple times over the summer and the off season because he's a really good player, Jimmy. He just needs to get a little quicker. So this is the cousin of the kid that's in Calgary. Kid in Calgary is a good player. He's a good player. The kid that's playing for LIU for Brett Riley, he's a good player too. If he gets a little quicker, he's going to have a chance to play. He will. He'll have a chance to play at the next level.
Love it. Love it. I like that kid a lot. All right, next question. GB, is Hudson defensive game good enough for the NHL?
Well,
yes. I think it needs work, but
yeah, no, it can't. So here's where it can't be the wrong matchup. If he's going against a power forward that's 6'4", 225 pounds, and is a sledgehammer, he's not going to be able to defend him.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have him on the ice against Austin Matthews. Just wouldn't, because it's a bad matchup. It's just not good for him at this point. I wouldn't have him on the ice against Chris Kreider.
Yeah.
I'm just showing you examples in the Eastern Conference. I wouldn't have him on the ice. I wouldn't have him on the ice against Dylan Larkin. I wouldn't. But I wouldn't have him against Brady Tkachuk. I wouldn't have him against Matthew Tkachuk. But do I think he's going to be able to defend well enough? Yeah, eventually he will.
Yeah, he'll get there. Pierre, if I'm them, and I'm sure they're probably planning on it anyways, you utilize him the same way the Bruins did Torrey Krug when he came in.
Yeah.
The way they handled that was perfectly. You weren't putting him against the tough matchups. You put him in when you knew he could utilize his specialty, and that's generating offense, obviously the power play. But, yeah, I'm totally with you, and you ease him in. And I know people disagree with me, a lot of people in Bruins fan base. I thought as he went on, Torrey got better defensively. He'll adjust. He'll figure it out.
You're not wrong. 100% he did. You just got to be fair on it. Even though a guy might have made mistakes 3 years ago, it doesn't mean he makes the same mistakes 3 years later.
Exactly.
But just be fair to the kid. And I think Lane will be very good there.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. All right, next question. Marvin Matthews, have either of you seen Gavin McKenna play? I have only seen on TV, Marvin, highlights.
Knows what I think.
So, but man, Pierre is over the moon about this kid. He's over the moon.
Marvin, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
There's a Celebrini component to him. There's look, I don't want to say this because that's too much expectation. There's a Crosby element to his game. He's really good. He's really good. You know what it brings me back to, Jimmy? I remember seeing Sidney play and talking before his draft year. And I said, he's got the composure of Lemieux, which he did. He's got the peripheral vision and the passing ability of Gretzky. And he's got the size and the board play and the cycle ability of Peter Forsberg. Jimmy?
That's high praise.
We got skewered from pillar to post, saying sacrilegious, should never compare that player to those guys. He'll never match any of those guys. No chance. You know, Jimmy, he never got one apology.
Of course not. It doesn't happen. Should, but it doesn't. Well, Pierre, I'll just say, we won't mention the team, but we were bouncing around different teams getting ready for our previews recently. And I was convinced that one team that we were talking about is in tank mode. And the first thing out of Pierre's mouth was, well, they're tanking the wrong year. And Gavin McKenna is exactly the reason why he said that.
You got to wait for McKenna.
That's when you want to tank. Not now.
McKenna.
Yeah. All right. Next question.
I will tell you, I got to tell you this straight up.
Go ahead.
Know people speculate about the tanking stuff. You know, I've been around a long time, Jimmy.
You can't.
I don't know.
You can't officially tank, Pierre. I think you can.
Yeah, I don't know one player in the league. I've seen
that will lose on purpose. Yeah,
it's going to try to lose on purpose.
Nobody's going to do that.
For a guy that might take their job.
But a GM can construct lineups.
Well, that's different.
Maybe won't be as competitive as maybe you'd like.
Yeah, for sure they can. But
yeah,
I've never seen.
It's a good. No, you know what? That's a good distinguish. It's good to distinguish that, Pierre, and it's something I think we all need to keep in mind when we talk about that too. Is it's not when I say it, I'm not thinking of the players. I'm thinking of management in the hockey ops. But I realize after you said that you got to mention that. But if there's if there's a player that you want to target, if you want to say, hey, if we're going to be bad, then next season's the year to do that.
He'd be a good one to get.
Oh yeah, he could alter your franchise like that.
I can't wait to watch him this year.
Yeah.
There's another kid. We're going to get Freddie Harbinson on too.
Of course.
He's the head coach and the general manager, and basically the emperor for life in Penticton.
And which is one of the best junior squads around.
It's just amazing how consistently good they've been. And I can tell you right now, I had a son that played for him, and Fred is old school, and he's tough as nails.
Remember what Greg Carvel said the other day?
Yeah. So all I'll say is they got a kid who's, I think, 15 years old, maybe 16. He got exceptional status to play in the BC Tier 2 Junior League. This kid's really good, Jimmy.
What's the name?
McCamey.
Okay.
Last name is McCamey. He's I think he's from Victoria, BC. He has been every top university. Everyone is already after Gugu Gaga. Guy.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's another one we're gonna have to watch, and so we'll get Freddie on once the season gets going.
Yep, for sure.
And because they've got a whack of guys again, a whack of them that are going to be so good.
Perfect. All right, next question. Canadian. Pierre, remember when you pronounced Thomas Greiss's name with the German twist? That was hilarious. Was it for comedic effect, and did you run it by the producers beforehand? Thanks. Pierre doesn't run anything by us. This is all, we go spontaneous.
I respect every culture. It's like when I speak about the Finnish guys, I try to say it the way they would in Finland.
Exactly. I think that's the way to do it.
The French guys, like Jimmy said, Pelletier. It's not. It's Pelletier.
No,
it's not his fault, but that's how you would, say it in English. So I respect. See, this is a thing that really bothers me. I hear people mispronounce names all the time. I understand. I totally understand. It can happen to anybody. But if you're doing a job on TV or you're doing a job on the radio, find out how the guy's name. Gordon Miller taught me that, and I respect Gord a ton. Gord taught me that a long time ago. We went to interview the Ukraine coach. The World Junior was in Helsinki, 2004, first time the Americans ever won. And so we asked how to pronounce a certain player's name. And the coach says, he doesn't care. Just say it any way you want. And Gord looked right at me. He was dead serious. He goes, I care.
Yeah.
I care because I want to do it right. Because there's thousands, maybe millions of people listening, which there were. There are millions of people listening. Yeah. I wanted to say it right.
Right.
I want to show respect. So I learned that. And another great teacher of that was the great Doc Emmerich. Mm-hmm. He worked so hard with Chuck Caton. Those two guys put together the pronunciation guide.
That's right. I remember you guys telling me about that.
And so
when we had Chuck on the first time.
And so Thomas Greiss, I'll say it anglicized, is Greiss. That's how they say it in Germany.
And I will never forget Peltier now.
Now you won't
get that. There we go. All right, next question. Sylvain Boudin. I'm going to say, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Baudin. Okay. Why has some, like Claude Provost, never been given the respect of being entered into Hall of Fame? 9 cups, great defensive forward.
So there's certain things I can say and certain things I can't say.
Right, because Pierre, just in case you guys know, he's on the committee. So
and you have to sign all kinds of different things. So I'm not going to take you inside the meeting. What I'm going to tell you is I'm aware of his records. I'm aware of the type of player he was. I know what Bobby Hull said about him, because anytime the Canes would play Chicago, it was Provo that had to play against Bobby Hull. So look, there are a lot of people that have the same amount of respect, Sylvain, that you have for the late Claude Provo. He had an amazing career, and he was a very important player on 9 Stanley Cup winning teams. Yeah. Very important. So I will just that's all I can say, Jimmy and Sylvain, but I can tell you that people are aware.
Yep. There we go. All right. Next question, if we have any more. I think we're done. Looks that way. Well, there was one over there. One I see that we didn't get to. GB talking about Burrows. Here we go. Are you guys surprised that Burrows has not been replaced as an assistant
on the Canadian staff? Yeah. So Alex still working for the organization though. I don't. So here's how I would look at it. I think that Marty St. Louis is really happy with the staff that he has. I know he really trusts Stefan Robida with the defenseman, and I know he really trusts Trevor Letowski, who stands right next to him. He's the guy. Trevor played a long time. I think he played over 500 games in the NHL.
Yeah.
You know, he was a good player. He was on Arizona for most of his career, but he was a good player. He was a really good junior player. So I think Marty likes his staff. I, unless it's a really good fit, no, I'm not surprised. I'm not.
It's not imperative that they feel.
Oh, look at Scotty, myself, and Rick Keogh were on the bench, and that was it. You know, we won.
Yep.
You know,
one more question there I see. Sorry, Shane. Marvin Matthews wants to say, could any team? There we go. Could any team be so bad that they get Higgins and McKenna in consecutive years?
No. Yeah. But, no. So Marvin, I got to tell you, good for you on Higgins. Yeah. Jimmy and I talked
about him. We were talking about him earlier today. That's funny.
Morning when I was just finishing up my workout, and going to see him a lot at Boston College this year. He's got big shoes to fill, because if he's not filling Cutter Gauthier's shoes, he's got to fill Will Smith's shoes. Mm-hmm. So not going to be easy. But I would say if I were betting right now, they'll probably have him playing with Ryan Leonard, a Washington pick, and Gabe Perreault, a New York Ranger pick. Mm-hmm. I have to think that that's how they'll start. And then a kid named Teddy Stiga, who's drafted by Nashville, he'll probably slot down a little bit behind that. I saw Teddy play at Belmont Hill before he went to the U.S. National Team Development Program. So, yeah, Hockey East, and I said this to Jimmy too, Hockey East this year, oh, man.
It's best conference in college hockey.
Congratulations, by the way, to Boston College. They sold out every single seat for the season.
I saw that. Yeah.
And I can tell you right now at Northeastern, where I have a couple inside sources, Jimmy, they're pretty much – most of their tickets are gone too.
Yep. And, of course, it's the last hurrah for Matthews Arena.
And, you know, BU's got a murderer's row of players coming in, starting with Cole Eiserman.
Yeah. You got other schools too coming. It's going to be a great conference.
You know, Providence is going to be a really good team. UMass Amherst is going to be – we just had Coach Carvel on last Friday on Campus Friday. Maine's going to be really good. Ben Bars. There you go, Ben.
He's doing a great job.
Yeah, we had him on last year.
We will. We'll have him on again. We got. I'm going to actually get working on setting up.
We got to get
Friday for this.
We had Jimmy Madigan on last year from Northeastern. We got to get Coach Keefe. We got to get Coach Keefe on.
Well, we got to get Jimmy on again too, though.
Jimmy's good.
Good stuff.
Just all right. All you got to do with Jimmy, just ask him whose team used to win in high school, his or mine. That's what you got to ask.
Hope you're listening, Jimmy. We miss you. All right. I want to thank Rob Simpson for joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. And, of course, you, the viewers and the listeners, and for your questions there in the Q&A, and to our producer, Shane, and the whole Sick Podcast staff. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. We will talk to you tomorrow.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.